What's up, guys? It's Ian from the PI Podcast. I'm going to be talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers today. So as you guys know, the Pittsburgh Steelers going into their version of a rebuild. This is the first time since 2004 that Big Ben has not been their quarterback. As you guys know, they drafted Kenny Pickett in the first round, and they also signed Mitchell Trubisky to a little 2-year deal. And today I'm going to talk about, do I think the Pittsburgh Steelers can keep Mike Tomlin's streak of consecutive winning seasons alive? And I really do think they have a chance. In order to really break down if they can or not, I'm going to look at their division for a second. The Cincinnati Bengals did an amazing job in free agency. They're not being talked about as much as I think they should be compared to some of these other teams that had really good drafts. The Cincinnati Bengals didn't do anything special in their draft, but their main playmakers are all on rookie contracts, including Joe Burrow, their franchise quarterback. Jamar Chase is going into his second year, and Evan McPherson is one of their bigger playmakers, in my opinion. They did a very good job bolstering their offensive line, and last year they did a very good job of bolstering their defense. So the Cincinnati Bengals are my favorite to win that division. With that being said, the Ravens are next I'm going to talk about. I think the Ravens had a really good draft. However, I'm a little worried about their wide receiver room. The good news is, we actually talked about this on the podcast the other day, that with Marquise Brown leaving, it might open up their game plan a little bit, because it seemed like they were putting all their eggs in one basket with Marquise Brown. And obviously Mark Andrews is always going to be a huge target for them, but hopefully now we can see some of those other wide receivers shine on their team. Also, the Ravens had a ton of injuries last year, which a lot of people forget about, and the fact that they almost made the playoffs with 10 huge injuries before week 2 started is really big. Plus Lamar went down last year. So the Ravens are going to have a bounce back year, I think, but it is concerning that they don't have anybody to throw the ball to. And then the Cleveland Browns, we don't know what's happening with Deshaun Watson yet. However, their roster is built to win, and even with, I think they got Brissett or Bridgewater, one of the two. I think it was Brissett, though. Regardless, whoever it is, can easily get 8 wins next year. But the AFC North is a really stacked division still. It might not be the best in football anymore, but they're, in my opinion, the third best division in the AFC, with the AFC West taking first and AFC East taking second. Even though the Jets are in a rebuild, that division is on the come up between the Dolphins and all their free agency moves. The Bills, obviously a powerhouse, and the Patriots are always going to be good with Bill Belichick. But before I ramble on too much about that, the Pittsburgh Steelers, their defense is returning. I was a little worried when Tuitt retired, but picking up Ogunjobi is a huge W for them. It's only a 1-year deal, so don't expect him to stay for long, but he's going to have really solid production. Their run defense should be decent next year. Their obviously pass rush is going to be amazing, as it was last year. Cam Hayward, TJ Watt. They bolstered up their linebacker core a little bit with Miles Jack. I don't think Miles Jack is going to be this crazy great player, but if you remember in Jacksonville, he was expected to take leadership responsibility, and he is not that guy. So hopefully him taking a back seat and not having to be forced to play a linebacker position he's not comfortable with, he won't have to be running all over the field, giving commands to players and stuff like that. He's just going to be a role player, and I think that's going to help his play a lot. So the defensive side of the ball, we don't really need to talk about too much, because it's the same. TJ Watt's going to do his thing. They're set. Minka's set. They are set on defense. Like I said, I was a little worried before when Tuitt retired, but they filled it pretty quick. So now I want to look at the offensive side of the ball. Their offensive line was not great last year. However, I think they did a decent job in free agency where they could. And we're going to have to look at their wide receiver core, which I think has greatly improved with George Pickens. Chase Claypool's the third best wide receiver in the NFL apparently. So him and Deontay Johnson. I think their wide receiver core is set too. The Steelers did good, in my opinion, getting rid of Juju. There's no reason to pay him when you have this kind of wide receiver group. The Pittsburgh Steelers are very good at finding wide receivers. I think they've proved that in the past 20 years, probably even 30 years. So now I want to look at the backfield. Najee Harris is going to have a great year this year. Does kind of depend on the offensive line, but Najee Harris is going to take a big leap next year, I think. And I think if he does well, Mitchell Trubisky is going to have a decent year as well. I think Mitchell Trubisky was in a failed system in Chicago, and he got a year to sit behind Josh Allen and Brian DeBole. So I think Mitch Trubisky is going to take advantage of this opportunity and show teams that he can be a starter in the league. Not to mention, the Steelers are, granted, they're known for their defense, but Mike Tomlin's not a bad offensive coordinator either. So I think they're going to game plan for Mitchell Trubisky in a good way. I mean, you got to think, Big Ben has been on the decline. I know Pittsburgh Steelers fans don't always like to hear that, but he was on the decline, and they still were able to manage a winning season every year with him, despite all the injuries he had, and Mason Rudolph coming in. Like, the fact that they still had over 500 seasons was, in that division, really good. I think Mitchell Trubisky, like I said, is going to be a good mentor for Pickett. And I think that you guys actually have a chance to go for possibly second. I don't think there's a chance you win the division just because, I don't know, even if Deshaun Watson doesn't play, that's a tough team to beat regardless. The Ravens are going to be really tough. Like I said, Lamar is going to be in a contract year where he's trying to show he's worth a $230 million guaranteed contract like Deshaun Watson. Not saying he's going to get anywhere near that, but all these quarterbacks going into like their ending of their rookie years, like or their rookie contracts, like Kyler Murray, I think these guys are going to try to show out the best they can. So that's a little worrisome for the Pittsburgh Steelers, in my opinion. I do know that the Pittsburgh Steelers defend pretty well against Lamar Jackson, and I think the pickup of Ogunjobi is going to help that as well. But it really is going to take a perfect season for them to go over 500. And Mitchell Trubisky can definitely do it. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers would be very smart to set Kenny Pickett, to sit him the entire year. There's no reason to play him. And I don't think Deshaun Watson's going to play for more than half the season, but if he does, I mean, the Browns might be good. I don't know. The Browns are so hard to judge because Deshaun Watson has sat an entire year. He's got an injury history. I think the Browns are really dumb for going after him in general. I mean, it just kind of shows how poverty of a franchise the Cleveland Browns are. Baker Mayfield was not the guy. However, the fact that you finally found a QB that could win a playoff game and you go and do this to him, it just doesn't make sense to me. The guy played on an injured shoulder for you. I would have at least given him another year or two, an extension for another year or two. But it didn't happen. It is what it is. So my prediction is that the Steelers are third in their division. I think the Browns are going to be last, especially if Deshaun Watson doesn't play. And I could see them, even if he plays the full season, I could still see them being last. Granted, I do know Deshaun Watson's a hell of a player, but I haven't seen that great of things out of him. He's had D-Hop. I don't know. With the injury history, I don't know if he's going to be able to compete on a fully rostered team like the Browns. Deshaun Watson has had to put the team on his back a lot, and I don't know if he's going to be able to trust his receivers to make deep throws all the time. Could surprise me. Who knows? But that's my take on the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. I think they go third, and I think they go 9-8. I don't see them really doing better than that. And like I said, I would love to see Mike Tomlin keep his streak going of winning seasons, but it's not looking. This is a rebuild year, even though it's not going to be a full-on rebuild like some other teams have had to do, like the Jets, the Jaguars, the Lions, and all them. But it's a rebuild year in a really tough division. So hopefully they do good, because I'd love to see the Steelers back in playoff contentions every year. It makes the league fun when there's a bunch of good teams. I don't like seeing bad teams. So that's my take. Thank you guys for watching.
Thank you for watching the PI Podcast. Make sure you subscribe and tune in next time so you don't miss the latest news in the NFL world. You can also follow us on TikTok at PIPodcast and on Twitter at PIPodcasters. Until next time.